Hello everyone, you may have heard about the Safe to Be Me conference that got scrapped by the government, and in this video we'll go over how it got scrapped. On the 16th of May 2021, the government announced they would be doing a conference to show off how good they were at being inclusive towards LGBT people and how it was safe to be me. This would require a good standing with the LGBT community and clearly needed to show the government cared about the LGBT community when they're actively doing things to further the rights of LGBT people. We can probably see how that went. In September 2022, the government pulled plans to reform the Gender Recognition Act, and it looked like more things would be put on hold. But the government needed to look like they were doing something. So in the Queen's speech to Parliament, the government promised they would ban conversion therapy. Then a few months later, they announced the Safe to Be Me conference. And these two measures are essentially the two flagship actions the government were touting, which we will highlight down below with these two ships, like flagships. These actions are what the government thought they would do to prove they were looking after the LGBT community. So, what happened to these boats? From the start, it was clear that the government was being hesitant about conversion therapy, and there was a lot of back and forth about religious exemption and a loophole about consenting to treatment. And after the government announced yet another consultation dragging the process further, it looked like the government weren't going to do anything. The ship for conversion therapy was sinking, and in a friendly fire from, let's say, a submarine from the EHRC, things were going to be made worse. On the 4th of April, the government's Equality and Human Rights Commission started issuing guidelines to essentially encourage firms to discriminate against trans people's gender identity in toilets and other single-sex spaces. Numerous LGBT organisations then joined together to lobby the UN to downgrade the status of the EHRC. We're still waiting on that, but hopefully something should come out from that. And then in March 2022, the government pulled plans to ban conversion therapy for trans people. Much like their world-beating spreadsheet, pulling conversion therapy and attempting to remove the rights of trans people showed they weren't in the lead when it came to looking after LGBT people, and like a parting blast on its way down, the conversion therapy bill started to sink the conference. It mainly did this because the government failed to ban conversion therapy, and Stonewall, Mermaids and many more wanted to pull out of conference. It mainly did this because the government failed to ban conversion therapy and many other things, and Stonewall, Mermaids and many more wanted to pull out of the conference, and the only clear reason the government could give to prevent them from leaving? That they were going to replace them with the LGB Alliance. And you can probably guess how that went. They wanted this conference to define how they were leading the world in LGBT inclusivity. But in reality, the events leading up to the scrapping of the conference clearly defined the opposite. Just rollbacks and false promises, and the causes I have described are only the tips of the icebergs of the things the government should have done better.